That's right. This is actually a third video about the differences between p5.js and processing. And in this video, I'm going to make a list of pros and cons. I have to admit, the list is going to be kind of a complete mess, a terrible diagram. Maybe somebody on the internet will make some kind of group editable document diagram thing that looks much more beautiful that we can all share and enjoy and look at. But in any case, I'm going to go through kind of pros and cons and kind of features of these environments and where it might make sense to pick one over the other and that sort of thing. And there's no hard and fast rules here. I'm going to do my best, and I am also going to answer some questions from the chat. So I'll see you maybe at the end of this video. Maybe I'll see you in the middle. Maybe I don't actually see anybody because I'm just looking at a camera, but you're a real person. Thanks for watching. So question number one that came from the chat is, what about autocompletion? Does processing or P5 have autocompletion? Well, first thing I should say is P5, in the sense that I've shown you as find your own editor, it's really about, does the editor that you're using have a plugin or feature that does autocompletion? And what is autocompletion? Autocompletion is when you're typing like ellipse or background, and the editor itself gives you a suggestion to kind of fill that in for you. And processing 3 does actually have this as a feature. So if I go to the preferences, we can see here that code completion with control space. So if I were to enable this, I could get code completion. And let me give that a try right now. So I'm going to check this, and we'll see if I have to restart processing, which I don't think I need to do. So, and I could say something like Fi, and then say control space, and you can see now I'm getting suggestions of, do I want to type in fill, filter, or finish, and I want to do fill. So I type it in, and it actually would give me commas there if it had multiple arguments, and I can say I want to make it some color, and I could run it again, and we can see, there we go, now I have it green. So there is code completion in processing, but P5, you know, when we publish a web editor, we could discuss does it have it, doesn't it have it, but this is a feature that's part of the processing editor. Question from Potato Kaboom is asking about Eclipse and processing. So one thing that you can do is you make processing sketches and use the processing libraries outside of the processing editor. And you can do that with any Java editor like IntelliJ or Eclipse, or NetBeans is one, I think. I happen to use Eclipse quite a bit, and I do intend to make a video to show you how to make processing sketches in Eclipse, and we'll get to that soon as part of this sort of series about these different environments. HNGSKJ in the chat writes, what about shaders? So shaders are really, shader is a program of GLSL, graphics language shader language, GS, I think I got that right, whatever. This is something that's part of WebGL. So processing as part of the P3 rendering mode natively has a way to load shaders and change properties in shaders. Maybe I'll open one of the examples. P5 shader support in WebGL is coming soon. It's a feature that's in development. If you're a shader or WebGL expert and want to contribute to that, jump onto the P5 GitHub, and you can sort of try to search in the issues for WebGL, and you'll probably find where that is. So let me at least briefly just show you here. If I go to File, Examples in Processing, and I go under shaders here, under Topics, I could pick one like, I don't know what's a good one. Let's try a glossy fisheye. That sounds like fun. And so if I run this particular example, you can see that there are these P shader, I'm standing in front of it, I know, these P shader objects. And you can see what this particular, every time I click, I guess it changes some properties. And so this is using a shader. So shaders itself are beyond the scope of this particular video, but I certainly would love to come and do some tutorials about shaders or have a guest do that at some point soon. Turkey in the chat asks about mobile. So this is, I completely forgot to add that here. Here is something we can put in both columns. But the wonderful thing about working in a browser-based environment is you've got mobile essentially for free, because what you program to run on a browser on a desktop computer can run on a browser on a mobile device. So P5 sketches will just work in both places. That said, there are certain kind of features and functionality that you might want that are different for a mobile environment. And P5, as part of the library, has an array to track multi-finger touch events. It has variables to keep track of the phone's acceleration and rotation. So there are a lot of features of the P5 itself that allow you access. Now you might want to ask though, but can I actually make an app? Like, yes, I know I could send people a URL. So P5 doesn't have any features for you to do that, but there are systems. I think probably the most a commonly used one is something called Cordova. And Cordova is a framework that allows you to take a web page and turn it into a native application. And that actually will allow you more access to certain hardware things on the phone that you wouldn't be able to just through the browser itself. Processing, because it's built on top of the Java programming language, you can actually make processing sketches in Android. And there is something called Processing Android. I believe if you go to android.processing.org, you can add that as a mode to processing. There are tutorials there. So you can build with processing native Android applications. This is not something I personally have a lot of experience with, but it is out there, and I know it's always a project that always needs help with maintaining, and Android's always changing. So if you're interested in that and want to contribute to that, that's great too. Fun Electronics Videos in the chat asks, what about exporting? And boy, this is another really big thing that I missed from this list, and I don't really have a lot of room left, so I'm just going to write it here in the middle. Exporting. So one thing that's really good in terms of processing is I'm not in the frame. One thing that's really good about processing is if you want to make something that you're exporting to another environment. For example, what if you want to render a high resolution PDF that you can print to a giant poster? What if you want to export out and render a movie file that you import into After Effects for an animation? What if you want to make a standalone application that someone can double click and run? So there are a lot of ways to essentially export out your content from processing to other environments. This is a bit harder to, I'm in the P5 side. I wrote this totally in the wrong place. That's supposed to be over here. Over here. This diagram is a mess. P5, it's a little trickier to do that. There's functions that exist in both, like save, which allow you to save what you drew as an image. And in P5, there's a function that allows you to save what you draw as an image. But unlike file management, and this also goes in this category, file management, loading files from if you have a directory of 1,000 images, processing very easily can just open up the directory, read all the files in it, no matter what they're named, stick them in an array, load them all. P5, as a browser-based thing, doesn't have access to your hard drive. So you have to kind of have images preset in a certain way, so to speak. They can be part of the sketch. This is a longer conversation here, but working with file systems is certainly a bit easier to do in processing. In P5, you'll need a server-side framework like Node or something to go along with it to have that piece of that puzzle there. And you can save files out, save JSON, save image, but all that's a little trickier. Your browser will just trigger an automatic download to the downloads folder. So it's a little trickier to manage all that sort of stuff, but certainly possible. I should mention that also processing has a lot of, which is over here, has a lot of features for and libraries for exporting 3D models. So if what you want to do is generate algorithmically some three-dimensional form to 3D print it, that sort of thing, you can do that. You can save STL files natively. And I believe there are libraries for doing OBJs and that sort of thing. I'd have to look into that and do a separate video about that, but that's certainly another aspect of this. Also that came up in the chat is sound and video, which I don't need to write here, but both of these environments actually have sound libraries and ways of capturing live and recorded video. And I think there are kind of probably pros and cons of each. Certainly what's kind of amazing what you can do with web audio these days, and the P5 sound library is written on top of that, and there's also a processing sound library. So if you're interested in that, maybe there's a separate whole video or discussion about that, but both of them have, processing and P5 have libraries where you can get access to a live camera or the microphone, or play sound files, generate sounds, synthesize sounds, that sort of thing. And I have a bunch of tutorials for P5 at least about sound. So thanks for watching this set of videos about processing and P5 and the differences between them. I didn't really get to talk about Python at all, but certainly if you're interested in number crunching and data science and natural language processing, Python is a wonderful language to explore as well, and maybe someday I'll have some guests on this video channel. I'm sure you're going to have follow-up questions. You can, I don't know where the best place to compile them is, maybe on that GitHub issue that I posted in the chat. You can ask follow-up questions there, and I can come back and answer those on a live stream someday. So thanks for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.